All right. Thank you very much, Andy, for joining us today. And you can go ahead and start.
All right, thank you. Appreciate everyone taking time out of their day to come and talk about strategic planning today. It's an extremely important topic when we look at the long-term viability of our business. It is, in a way, our opportunity to bet on ourselves, so to speak. We're going to come up with a plan that you can implement immediately to get the results that you're after. But as we continue to look at a strategic plan, we have to ask ourselves, why do we need a plan? When I was first started to work for the military, about 2003, I met a sergeant major at an in briefing for his soldiers that were coming straight in from basic training to get their training before they went over to the front lines. And he asked me, so what are you going to do for my soldiers? How are you going to teach them the game of golf? So I explained the plan to the sergeant major. And at one point in that plan, when it got to the results, I used the term, well, I hope, and he stopped me right there. He said, let me stop you. Hope is not a method. He said, hope is not a method. And that always stuck with me because we often take shots in the dark trying to do things and we hope they work. We're not really sure if they do or not. So we need to look at how we can get the confidence of the decision makers. And if we go in with a plan that says it's filled with hope, that's not going to gain the confidence of those decision makers. So we have to get a good understanding of our business so that we can have the plan of how we're going to navigate through that. Some quotes here. If you don't know where you're going, every road will get you nowhere. Goal without a plan is just a wish. And then that sergeant major said to me, hope is not a method. So we have to be specific as we can. So what is a strategic plan? Well, simply put, a strategic plan is an intricately designed, measurable way of doing business created with input from every level of position and every department that is ready for immediate implementation by those team members who strive to ensure that their ever-changing business environment stays focused on the unchanging values and principles that guide the team in all they do in order to reach the established pinnacle of achievement agreed upon by decision makers of that business. Now, I know that's very wordy and we're going to break it down, but it is a detailed definition for what is going to be a detailed plan. So when we look at strategic planning as defined by different business leaders and organizations across the world, we get a lot of different definitions that focus on a lot of different things. So we have, strengthening operations, established agreement and intended outcomes. We have initiatives, investments, defining, we want to realize strategic ambitions. We get a lot of different definitions that you can find just by doing a simple Google search. But let's take a look back at our definition here and see how it measures up with some of these definitions and how we can break this down. When we look at the 6 W's of investigation, the who, what, where, why, and how. So first of all, the who. Who is this plan involving? Well, it's involving our team members and the decision makers of the business. It needs to be more than just you, and you have to have buy-in of the people you answer to. Sounds pretty obvious, but we want to make sure that we state that in the main objective here. And then the what of the plan. Well, the plan is an intricately designed, measurable way of doing business. It needs to be intricately designed because it has a lot to include and it needs to be measurable so you can tell them how you're doing. Where it's going to take place at every level of position in every department, every single team member, every single department, everything that touches your business needs to be included in your strategic plan because every piece needs to be headed in the same direction. Every person needs to be going for the same goal. When? Well, we want to do this with immediate implementation. We're going to see later on how if we sit around and wait for something to happen, we're just going to get passed by. So why are we going to do this? Well, we want to do it in order to reach the established pinnacle of achievement. Every facility is going to have a different goal. You may have a different goal from plan to plan or year to year, and that's going to be established by the people that you answer to. Is your goal to just add a benefit to the community? Is it to be profitable and make as much money as possible? Or is it to support another cause or just be a great amenity at your club? That is going to be established, and that's what your goal needs to be geared towards, your entire strategic plan. And the how. We're going to ensure that the ever-changing business environment stays focused on the unchanging values and principles that guide them, the team, in all they do. So we know we're in a constantly changing environment, but we need to have this plan secured on unchanging values and principles so that regardless of what happens around us, we're still heading in the right direction. All right, so that answers kind of the definition. Now that we're all on the same page, we're going to look at what you need to do to put one together. The first thing that we need to do, the first thing that is starting a plan is we have to know where we are. We need an unbiased explanation of our business. We need to understand what that is. Samuel Beckett said, if you don't know where you're currently standing, then you're dead. You have to have a realistic picture of where you are from the competition, what makes you stand out, what makes you different, what's going to get you noticed. Today, we're in competition with more than just other facilities. We're in competition with soccer, with dance, with hockey, with play practice, travel sports, video games, so many other things that compete for people's time. That's what it comes down to. What is going to make us stand out to make someone want to spend their time, their money at our club, at our facility? Douglas MacArthur, great general. While no man is in his right mind would advocate sending our ground forces into continental China, and such was never given a thought. A new situation did urgently demand a drastic revision of strategic planning, and our potential aim was to defeat a new enemy as we had defeated the old. In other words, we have a new enemy. We can't fight the way we fought before. We have to reevaluate and change our battle plan if we're going to be victorious this time. So just because you did something a certain way in the past and it worked, doesn't mean that it's going to work again. You need to assess the situation, see what's in front of you, and make the plan based on your new environment. So there's going to be changes. There's going to be changes. We've already taken a big step just by recognizing those changes and seeing that something needs to be done, because a lot of that is constantly changing. Some of them are unknown, some of them are known. But when we want to make a change, the first thing we need to do is we have to get that desire of what it is that we want to accomplish. So let's take an example of if we're swimming. And if our ultimate goal is we want to be ready for the rest of the day and we want to be dry and in our clothes, what's the first thing we need to do? Well, the first thing we need to do, obviously, is get out of the water. Because if we try to put our clothes on while we're still in the pool or we're still in the lake, that we're not going to reach our goal. So we need to get out of the water. Seems elementary, but we have to take those obvious steps to do the process correctly. Next thing, if we get dressed at this point, that's not going to get us dry either, because we are still dripping wet. Our bathing suit, everything is still dripping from being in that lake. So we have to dry off, right? We have to dry off. But if then, even still, if I try to put my clothes on at this point, I'm still putting them over a wet bathing suit. So that's not going to work. So I have to then change my clothes as well. And it's not until I've done each of those steps in the proper order that I get to my objective and I'm in dry clothes ready for the rest of my day. So we recognize that we've got to do those steps in the proper order. So in creating a strategic plan, we need to first identify what our end goal is and where we want to be. Famous words of Yogi Berra, if you don't know where you're going, you might wind up someplace else. Philosopher, you cannot be everything to everyone. If you decide to go north, you cannot be going south at the same time. So the plan has to include each and every department that you come in contact with. If it's your plan, everything under your umbrella needs to be included, or maybe your plan needs to be included in the larger club plan. So we need to get equal input from each and every department. It's absolutely vital that we spend time with each of those departments getting their input. It's a great thing to give them the opportunity for them to describe to you what it is that they do, how they see themselves fitting in to the entire operation. We have to lay out the guiding principles and goals that we're operating under and help them to know what those are, but have them try to define that to you first. It gives you a good idea of where you stand in terms of trying to turn that ship or change that culture to see if the team is pretty close or if they're way off base. You may identify some of the problems you have here, but you also start to identify some of your key employees and the people who are going to be invested in not only making this plan, but carrying it out. So when we have a bunch of people together and we're trying to determine what it is that's most important to us and laying out what the guiding principles, they always come up with the same idea, right? No, no, not at all. We have, if everyone is coming up with the same thing, then somebody's not thinking. So general pattern there, if everyone is thinking alike, then somebody isn't thinking. Everyone's going to have a different opinion. In fact, as we start to let them talk, we start to get lots of ideas and lots of opinions. It is going to be a very lively, spirited conversation once you start to get the input from different people, but you start to take all of that and put it through the filters of your values and guiding principles. Now, these aren't going to be your understood, expected characteristics of an employee, like honesty and integrity. Those should be understoods. You want to mention them, but that's not going to be one of your values or guiding principles because that's something that should be instilled in each and every one of your employees as you hired them. You want to make sure that they have those. But these are going to be the non-negotiable characteristics that are used to describe your business. If you went to any one of your customers, any one of your members, or if I went to them and I asked them that, would you define this operation as, and then I used those values and guiding principles that you have, would they be surprised by those or would they say, okay, yeah, I can see that. That's something that would happen here. Everything that we do needs to be put and matched up into that, put through that filter. It's not necessarily going to be our mission and vision statements. Those are going to be filters that then our guiding principles and values go through in order to get to our end goal. But these would be, the socialized parts of the plan that everyone is going to know, everyone's going to be able to focus on, and everyone's going to be able to ask themselves, does this action I'm going to take or this decision I'm going to make, does this line up with our established values and guiding principles? And then we do have to put those through the filter of our mission and our vision. All of that ultimately, is up to you. You get the input of all of those departments, but it's going to come to you as the decision maker to put all of that together. And how does that look? How are you going to prioritize those things? What is going to be most important to you that you're staking, in some cases, your position on this plan so that you can have the freedom to make the decisions in the direction lining up with those, achieving those values and objectives. So when you actually put the plan together, this is a little bit more of what it might look like. You got equal input from all of the different departments, but some departments, let's just face it, are going to play a bigger role in the overall strategic plan than others. You may have an operation where tournaments are the biggest part of your business, or you might have member events or outside operations because that's the first interaction with people at the club. Maybe your golf shop is the center of life at the club. The maintenance is very important. How is the golf course maintained? How is the clubhouse grounds maintained? But as you talk with these different departments and based on your directives from the people you work for, you know what the biggest hits have to be in this plan. So as you put the implementation together, you're going to focus the plan more in some areas than you will in others. But each department does get the proper amount of attention for that plan. So you take all of this information, you've met with all the different departments, you've gotten their input on what they think is most important, what they think their job is, how they fit into the overall operation, um, their cog in the wheel, so to speak. You have to do the research now. You have to do the research on everything that influences your business. This is the part where the work is done as the leader of your facility for your competitive market analysis. How is your pricing? What is your programs? What are your offerings? What type of experiences do you have at your club that are not offered other places? You need to look at your customer profile. What does your ideal customer look like? If you have a target ideal customer, then those values and principles should be very important to that ideal customer as well, so that everything you have lines up with that so it appeals to that ideal customer. You may know for a fact it does not meet what some people are looking for. But if that's not your ideal customer, that's okay. You can't be everything to everyone. This is where you get feedback. You weigh that feedback. Is it something you let come in one ear and out the other? Is it something that you take a hard look at and say, okay, that stepped on my toes a little bit, but I can see what they're saying? What are your preferences? What are the participation numbers for different things you've done in the past? What type of trends do you see? This is where you evaluate technology. Are you on the cutting edge? Do you want to be on the cutting edge? Is it important to your membership that you not have tee times, that you do have tee times? What are the tee time intervals? Can they make it online? All of those things with technology now. Do you have a mobile app for your club? Do you have GPS in your carts? What other technology is out there? And do you need to be on the cutting edge? Social media. Do you have social media accounts? Are they an afterthought? Is it a priority? Is that the main way of communication or something that, give it or take it, it's not going to be that big of a difference? But ask your audience members or your customers, how many times a day do they check social media? You're going to get a very different answer from your folks under 30 than you will from your folks over 50. So are you going after one rather than the other? Or are you trying to go after both? How are you going to attack social media? Do you need a person completely dedicated to it? Or is it going to be another thing tacked on the head golf professional? This is where you look at your expenses. Are your expenses under control? Are they focused and geared towards what you have defined as the most important departments? You have to spend money to make money. But are you spending your money wisely, or are you just throwing it away to say you did something? What you do, is it measurable? What do your staffing models look like? Again, does the level of your staff reflect where you have defined the important departments, the most front-facing departments, but also to have the proper back-end support so that everything in your operation can be exactly the way you want it, lining up again with those values and principles. Are your hours of operation correct? Are you open when you need to be? Do they suit your employees or your customers? Are they profitable? Do they have to be profitable anytime your doors are open? Or is it at some point, does it become a service because it's what you've promised based on the vibe or the culture of the club? Where do you need to be? So your merchandise, are you presenting it well? Are you selling things that fit the image that you want to be? Are you priced properly? Are the lines things that they can get anywhere in town, or is it exclusive to your club? Is it private label? Do you have a members only logo? Are those types of things important? What is going to distinguish your operation? Why do they want to spend your money there? These are things that you have to decide. One of the things as you are continuing to evaluate all of this data that you're pulling in is the power of why. As you continue to try to figure out why, just keep asking yourself the question, why? Why do we do this? Why do we not do that? And you answer that, you're just like your kids when they were 4 or 5 years old. But why? But why? But why? And it eventually breaks down to we wanted to or we didn't want to. I liked it, I didn't like it. Most of the things break down to something that simple. Is this something your club wants to do? Keep asking that question of why until you get to a more basic answer. It's not overcomplicated as we often try to make it to be. We're asking people to spend their time and money. They're going to spend their time and money on something they want to do. So it breaks down to that basic element of it's something I like. So it's better to make small changes as we go than rather than just blow things up and have a grand reopening. That's a decision you're going to have to make. Do we want to do it incrementally and try to slowly change things, or do we want to just shut it down, rebuild it, blow it up, and then open up with a whole new concept? That you need to decide for your club what the best approach is for that. But now, so you have to take all of that information, combine it with the feedback from your team, and you begin to assemble this plan and how you're going to get from where you are for where you want to be, recognizing that the fact that it has taken years to develop the culture and the situation that you're in. Despite the desires of our boards, of our owners, we're not going to have the silver bullet that we make the decision today. And guess what? February, all of our problems are fixed because we did these 2 or 3 things. It's going to be a communication piece that we have to do so that we can get the plan in place the proper way. We're going to do it. We want to do it the right way. A good plan violently executed now is better than a perfect plan executed next week. So you can see where that would be important in war. You don't want to wait for your enemy to make the first move, but you want to make sure that your situation and you've spent the time on the plan that you have and it is what you want to do, but don't sit around and wait for you don't want to be told what to do, I guess is what I'm trying to say. You want to be the one leading from out front and saying, this is the direction we need to go, and this is why. So we take, again, all of that information and we put it through our filter system so that we can write our plan. Again, everybody's situation is different. But if you're on the right even if you're on the right track, you're going to get run over if you just sit there. So you have to limit the amount of time that you're collecting this data. Put deadlines on yourself. The off season is a great time to do it, but you need to have everything in place by the time your season hits. If your season hits April 15th, April 1st is not the time to implement that plan because you need to get everybody on the team going in the same direction. You need to get everyone on board so that they catch the vision, they catch your passion. If they have already bought into this vision, then they're going to be able to carry it out more effectively, but they're going to get a lot of questions. They're going to get a lot of questions from the customers that you may not get because their relationship with your members, with your golfers, with your customers is different than yours. They might talk more casually with them, but if that employee is not crystal clear on why they're doing things differently now than they did them before, they're just going to come, I don't know, I just do what I'm told. That's just what Andy told me to do. And, I don't know why I do it. I just, I'm going to get in trouble if I don't. Or do they know the purpose behind it? Because it all comes back to putting it through those predetermined filter systems of how we got to that plan. And if you included them back at the beginning of the plan on what was important to them and how they fit into that, they're going to be able to tell this story from a perspective of excitement and a perspective of being a part of it rather than just something that was dictated down to them. It takes everything that we do to go through this. Now, I know we're spending a lot of time here on the framework of the plan, but it can't be stressed enough how it needs to go through these filters so that every team member knows exactly what it is of what they're doing and why. There's a purpose behind everything, and everyone needs to know what it is backwards and forwards. We need to spend the time to put everything through these filters of our values, our guiding principles, our mission, our vision, to make sure we get it right. We want to have everything heading in the same direction, whether it's the person out cutting the holes first thing in the morning, pulling up the carts, or this person locking up the clubhouse at the end of the day. They're all playing a part going for the same goal as they do it because they're working together as a part of a team. They understand how they fit in to that. So the plan is approved. So what do we do next? We have to market that plan. So we can't forget that we have to go into this plan ready to market the plan. Too many companies are afraid of openness. With the right people, it isn't an issue. If you've spread this message to your staff, had them help put it together, and clearly painted the picture for the direction you're going, you now have everyone on board, but you're open and honest about why you're doing what you're doing. Change is not bad if it's for a purpose. Change for the sake of change just creates chaos. It's going to have people upset that you move their cheese, right? That old book, somebody don't move my cheese. We have to make sure that everything we do has a purpose. So when dealing with the public, a very important thing that we need to do, there's 3 simple rules for dealing with the public. We're going to tell them what we're going to do. So before you roll the plan out, you tell them about the plan. Say, this is what we're going to be doing, and this is why we're going to be doing it. Then, as you're doing it, you're telling them again. You're going to do what you told them you were going to do. You're following through on what you said because you're going for that purpose. And then after it's implemented, you tell them what you did. So you continue to put that in front of them. The purpose, the culture, the club atmosphere, culture that you want to have in there is constantly before them. You tell them what you're going to do, you do what you told them, and then you tell them what you did. Don't expect what you don't inspect. Captain Joe Parada here worked with me at a course about 25 years ago, and he was a retired Navy captain. And that was something that he taught me a lot about leadership. And that was one of the things that he constantly told me as a young PGA golf professional is Andy, you have great ideas and great plans, but if you don't follow up behind it, you can't expect people to do what you want them to do. And this doesn't mean that you're going to be the Gestapo coming around to make sure everybody's doing what they're doing, because then you create a culture of they're only going to do it when you're around. But you have to do that, as Ken Blanchard says, you have to catch someone doing something right. You be on a constant tour of the entire operation. Every day, the employees of every one of those departments need to know that you're there, that you're looking. You're looking not to catch someone doing something wrong, but you're encouraging them to carry out their part of that plan. You're thanking them for what they do. You're helping them find better ways to do what they do. And you expect them to have the same experience, no matter if it's the dishwasher or the head professional, because they know how they're fitting into the overall plan. And they're excited about how they can do that because they know if they don't do it, their department's not going to function the way it can, and the entire team isn't going to reach that goal. So now you have things rolling, things are being noticed, change is being noticed. You're being prepared to have certain points of the plan that are going to miss the mark. It's just going to happen. Some things that you were certain were a good idea are going to flop, and that's okay. We cannot take that personally. You can't be married to any one idea. Remember, it's a big plan, intricately designed with lots of different things going on. But as those things fail, you tweak them, you change them, and you re-implement them. That's again where you gather the team together, you get their perspective. That's going to show a couple of things. That's going to show first to your team that you're not married to any one idea, that it didn't have to be a good idea because it was your idea, that you're going to do what's best for the operation. You're going to change it. You're going to take their suggestions in many cases, or you're going to give direction where it's needed. But it's also going to show your membership that you're willing to change. You're willing to do what's best in their interest because you want to put the best product forward that they're going to enjoy. Each person is going to know that you can do better because if you ask them, they're going to tell you that they could do better than you, right? So listen to what they have to say. Take those feedback points of those areas and see how you can do it better. Sometimes you take a suggestion just to give it a try and you put it out there as, hey, we're going to give this a trial period. We're going to try this for 2 months, 3 months, 15 days, whatever the case may be. And we're going to have feedback. We're going to have, you know, a meeting to discuss what you thought about it, an open time of feedback, surveys, whatever the case may be, however you can get the best response from your people. And you know your people the best to see how they're going to react, how they're going to be able to share what they think. That's a great time to go play golf. Go play golf with people. They're more likely to tell you what they think on the golf course in a more casual environment rather than in a meeting. Are you doing that on a regular basis? Just get people's input. One good suggestion I had from one of our folks is we set up a camera on the first tee, and we're on an Air Force base. So we put a camera on each and every one of our golfers on a Saturday morning, and we gave them the microphone and we said, okay, you've got 60 seconds. Tell us if you were the general for a day, what would you do with Eaglewood? How would you change things? And you get their ideas. And, you get a lot of oh, I wouldn't do anything. You guys are doing a good job. And I get some others, oh, you need new carts. They suck, or whatever it is. Or you need better beverage cart people. They'll give you whatever their thoughts are, but you take that feedback and you're openly inviting feedback in a way that can show them that you want to do better based on what they want. So here's a good quote. A strategy is not permanent. It's like water. It will keep changing itself as the obstacles come. You need to be ready to adjust every day. So when it comes down to it, without strategy, execution is aimless. Without execution, strategy is useless. This is an aircraft carrier. We got quite a few of those stationed here. I think there's 5 in port right now here in Norfolk. And when you talk to the sailors that are out there and when they need to turn around quickly, it's not something that they just, okay, hang on, we're going to turn around real quick. An aircraft carrier is literally a floating city. If you notice up on top of that aircraft carrier, there's nothing on the deck. They have taken the preparation to get the planes in the air or down in the hold. Everything is off, everything is put away, everyone is at their proper station under the deck in the ship so that they can turn around and coordinate what that is and not lose any cargo or any people. Everyone has done and prepped what they need to do for this coming change. Have you prepped your people? Have you prepped your employees, your team members, your customers for the change that's coming? Because it's going to take a while to turn that ship around. But some of these results should start to show themselves pretty immediately. Not everything. You're not going to fix everything, but you're going to start to see trends change. You're going to start to see some metrics come. Some of the things obviously are going to show themselves on the financial statement. Are they responding with their dollars? Are they responding with their participation numbers? Are they responding with their satisfaction levels? Have you done surveys? Are you asking them? Are you talking with them? They're going to speak with their dollars and speak with their attendance, but have them ask them to speak face to face and give you their opinion. They're going to be a lot more bought into something if it's something that they had a conversation with about. And it may not be that you're soliciting their idea. It's like, hey, I have an idea that I'm thinking about implementing. Let me run it by you and see what you think. Now you've confided in them. They're going to be a champion for you in that, unless it's something they're just completely against. But if you bring them in and you're spreading that message properly, they're going to be one of your most staunch supporters and backers there. So as we're doing things, be creative, be caring, be courageous, and be consistent. As you put this plan together, you want to be able to stand out. There are lots of tools out there that can help you to do this. We have invested in working with a PR group, not only for the section, but I've done one on with my club as well that helps with social media, that helps with canvassing the community. One of our goals in our strategic plan is to become the center of the community. We want anything and everything that happens at Langley Air Force Base to at least consider coming and housing themselves out of Eaglewood. We've gone as far as having different programs to bring folks in for reasons that are nothing related to golf. We've hosted things as crazy as cheerleading practices. We've done the paint and sips, the dine and nines, and the different things like that, but we've held spouses club meetings. We want any way we can to get people through the door. We're working with a company on the social media aspect and it's called reputation management as we work on online reviews and trying to get a bigger digital footprint. Those are ways that we can reach a different generation than what we've reached in the past. Some of those things that cannot be anticipated because we don't know about, we're working with a company to help us to tell us what we don't know so that we can get better at those things. Nothing is off the table. Always be willing to try, but always be willing to change as well. So after all, someone has to be number one. Why can't it be you, right? So get out there, make the plan, stick to the plan. We just started year 5 of our 5-year strategic plan at Eaglewood, and we have seen our bottom line increase by over $250,000 in the last 4+ years. And a lot of that has to do with getting everyone on the same page, but making sure that the entire community knows what we're doing and why we're doing it. We have the opportunity to have folks come in and get updates on how we're doing on our plan, how we're doing on our measurable established goals. We bring the entire staff together 2 or 3 times a year to give them an update so that we can explain how the job that they're doing is resulting in us reaching those goals that we all came up with together 4 years ago. And that's exciting to see the guys who cut our grass have pride in what they're doing because they see how it leads to business. The people washing our carts and greeting people in the parking lot, seeing how the play is increasing and continues to increase at, 2 to 3% each year for the last 5 years. They can see how that has allowed us to purchase more things, get them more equipment, and not only improve the infrastructure of our club, but improve the quality of the product that we put out there. So these plans work. Get everyone involved, and you will make a difference. It is, in a way, doing what Joe Flacco did years ago, kind of betting on himself, and then he went and won the Super Bowl. If you can sell this to your owners, to your board, to your membership, get everyone behind it, and then pull it off, you will have free reign to do operations the way that you want to do operations. They will continue to support you and just say, let us know what you need. Otherwise, keep doing what you're doing. So at this time, open it up. Does anyone have any questions?
Everyone can either enter their questions into the chat, or you can unmute yourself if you'd like to ask your question verbally, either way.
Hey Andy, I'll kick it off. Jim Bennett here.
Hey,
Thanks for
Jim.
doing this. Real quick, I know you're talking your strategic plan is a 5-year plan at your club. If you are in charge of a smaller area of your club, would you imagine that strategic plan will be shorter, maybe a year, maybe a 2-year, or should it be something long and drawn out that you already have set up?
I would say in that instance, Jim, you probably wouldn't want to go beyond 2 or 3 years just because the whole vision of the club may change within that. If you did a 5-year plan, you may not be able to execute it because of exterior factors coming in on top of you. But if you make it clear to the other department heads where your department is headed and you have a vision of the next 2 to 3 years, uh, if they don't have a plan, they'll probably put something together that will fit in with yours because you're the only one heading in a specific direction.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Great question. And while other individuals may be unmuting themselves or entering their questions into the chat, I just would like to thank Andy for his time today, sharing this expertise in this session. We appreciate it.
Thank you. You're welcome. Glad to do it. I was telling Christine earlier, I shared a little bit longer version of this presentation at the PGA Education Conference 2 years ago at the PGA show, and then last year with the Air Force golf managers. And our model of the strategic plan has become the standard within force support, or MWR, within the Air Force. So these plans are getting recognition for the results that they're getting.
Very cool. Any other questions? You can definitely unmute yourself or type in your question in the meeting chat.
Hey, Andy, Jonathan Schoenfeld here. I'm gonna chime in with a question just to make sure we go another 14 minutes and we get the full hour of PDR. but you know, I've got some experience in this as well, in the private club space. You know how what I've found is the different viewpoints, and you mentioned how, call it, bringing in someone to identify facility needs is a key characteristic. Can you kind of elaborate on some of those practices and the best practices to understand the deferred maintenance at some facilities, and what some of, call it, our industry's best are doing to make sure that we don't fall into that deferred maintenance situation that clubs seem to fall into from time to time?
Yeah, so I know on the maintenance side of things, one thing that we do is we constantly have, whether it be turf experts from the USGA or state or regional associations come do ride arounds. A lot of our chemical company reps are former superintendents or former research aides. Be able to come through and look at things, offer suggestions, but then to consistently, we do something called what's happening signs. So anytime we have a new practice going on, in addition to posting your just environmental warnings that you're spraying that day, but explaining what the spray is and what the benefit, and in some cases, what would happen if we didn't do those things, kind of the necessary evil of airification. But being able to have people walk through our facility that aren't part of our team helps a lot. Um, and that goes within departments as well. So some of our best operational suggestions have come from our superintendent. As he just looks at things and says, "Hey, it would make sense to me if we do this and that." And we're like, "Okay, well, yeah, you know what? That makes sense. I haven't thought about it that way." And we'll try things. Or he'll just look at me and say, "I don't like it. Sorry, you got to give me more than that." Um, but being able to get that feedback and just gathering the information, but then passing along the information for the benefits, but also the detractors if you don't do it. Educating folks. I know when we have had those topics of deferring certain types of maintenance and maybe putting local rules in for this or that, because we're not going to do bunkers, or we're not going to, mow greens as often or cut holes as often, things like that. It's generally coming from a point that does not understand the impact of what that's going to have on the level of product that you put out. So if you're continuing to, one of the things that we always say is that we have a 4-star general at our base. So we need to operate this golf course as if it were the property of a Fortune 500 CEO. And is that going to be something that is reflective of the quality that that type of leader would want, that represents him as much as it represents us? So that helps us to spread that message a little bit more, because on our base, everything trickles up to the old man, as the old saying goes. So, um, even though he is 4 to 5+ levels of leadership above the golf course, and that doesn't prohibit them from coming and getting into the weeds every now and then. But the more that we educate them and they have confidence that we're executing a plan and they know why we're doing some of the things, they're willing to take on some of those expenses. Does that make sense?
It does. Thanks, Andy. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Hey, Andy, it's Mike Fentress. How you doing?
Hey, Mike, good.
Hey, I just want to say thank you. Great job on that.
Thank you.
Key points on what you started off with there. I think if you don't get the entire departments together to be on the same page, then you're going to always butt heads and you're never going to get into the direction that you want to get into.
Yes.
And the other thing, as you're doing the improvements and doing whatever you at the club, brag about it a little bit. Take pictures, let the people know what you're doing, and show them the things that y'all have tried to do. And I think that makes a big difference. But great job with everything, Andy.
Thank you. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. That's That's fantastic. And I've been on both sides of that coin, especially like when dealing specifically with superintendents. I've had good superintendents that get it, and I've had some that it's the us versus them mentality. And that's a miserable environment to be in. I know several of you have been in that, but when you can get everyone running in the right direction, um, it's it's a great working environment to be in for sure.
Okay. Any final questions? If not, we can give you back 8 minutes of your day. You will earn 1 PDR credit, so don't worry about that. But if somebody has any questions, I definitely don't want to limit your ability to do that. All right.
There's my email and phone number. Feel free to drop me a note if you have any questions or just want to share with me something that you're doing. I'd love to hear it. And if you're interested I'll share a copy of my plan with you. It's quite long, but it's been very good for our operation. Be happy to share that with you.
That is a generous offer, Andy. All right. Thank you all for your time today. And thank you most of all, Andy. We appreciate it. And you all have a wonderful day.
Thanks.